have most likely learned these at least twice before in geometry and in algebra 2. This is how you would have learned them in geometry. This is what my class is learning right now. So let's just review really fast. Sine of an angle equals, we'll call it an alpha. How's that sound? Sine of an alpha angle equals opposite leg divided by the hypotenuse. Does this sound familiar? Cosine. Do you guys remember? What is it? Adjacent leg over the hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent, correct? Okay. We are actually going to list these a little bit differently. By the way, I don't know if when you learned these, if your teacher ever had you memorize it with this thing. Yeah. So sine, opposite hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent hypotenuse, tangent, opposite adjacent. And then there's many different ways you can remember Sokotoa. There's a story I like to tell about an Indian chief who stubs his toe in the forest. And because his toe hurts, he soaks it in a cold river. And he becomes known as Chief Sokotoa. Okay, never mind. Yes?
There's a dude named Sal.
There's what?
There's a dude named Sal.
Really? Sal Kotoa?
Yeah. It's like Sal Kotoa. Sal Kotoa? He's big. Yeah, he was in my syllabus.
Oh, you guys know someone that's seriously named Sal Kotoa.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool. I want that name. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, here's a couple of other things I've heard. Okay. This one's really dumb. Some old horse caught another horse taking oats away.
I'm not gonna say that.
Okay, this one's a little better. Some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on acid. Okay, here's one that Mr. Ash just found. Mr. Ash told me this one the other day. Oh heck, another hour of algebra. Anyway, it missed the S and the C as well. Oh heck, another hour of algebra. Can't say what? Oh, I guess you can't. Okay. All right. Here is how we are learning these. You know how we're learning to draw angles on this like circular thing? So imagine that you draw an angle on this circular thing that we've been doing, called the unit circle. Let's just make it in the first quadrant for now. And then we're going to turn that angle into a right triangle by drawing a line vertically, straight down from the terminal side of the angle to the initial side of the angle. Okay, so this is just one of those angles we've been working with the last few days. But we've just turned it into a right triangle on this XY coordinate plane, right? Yep. What is the length of this side of our triangle? Thank you, I heard someone say it. X. Because if you wanted to graph that point right there would be an X followed by a Y, right? So the length of this part of our triangle is X. How about the length of this piece? Y. The length of that one is Y. And then the one this direction, since we're kind of dealing with all of these on a circle, we just call this one R for radius. It's technically the hypotenuse, but because we deal with these kind of in a circular pattern, we just call it R for radius, because that way it applies better later to other things. Okay, so now if our angle is right here, let's call this alpha. Which side is X? Is it the opposite side or the adjacent side? Good job. So this side would be the adjacent leg. Okay, what would Y be? Y would be the opposite leg. And what would R be? R would be the hypotenuse. Okay, so that allows us to rewrite all of those things we just talked about. Okay, so I'm going to call sine alpha, instead of opposite over hypotenuse, I'm going to call it opposite over hypotenuse would be what? Y over R. And then cosine would be x over R. Good. And tangent can you guys think of anything else you've ever learned that has to do with y values over x values? Guess what? The tangent of any angle is the slope of the line that that angle forms. Is that crazy?
That's awesome.
I think it's awesome too, so thank you. Okay, now I'm glad you know sine, cosine, and tangent, but you also need to know these three things. This one is called cosecant. Why can't George Washington turn into a country? Because he can't! It's ridiculous. Because he can't. Never mind. Okay. Cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So if sine is y over r, then what's cosecant? Very good. Okay? It was a really, really stupid joke, so if you don't get it, don't worry about it. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So what do we do to turn cosine into a reciprocal? Perfect. And then there's this thing called cotangent. What do you call a man that spent too much time in the sun?
Red, bro.
A tangent. I swear I said had something for hypotenuse and now I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah. What do you call a tall coffee pot that's like perking, making coffee?
Cotangent and the cosine of the same.
A tall coffee pot that's making coffee. A high pot in use. High pot in use.
So are
Hypotenuse.
the cosine and the cotangent the same? X over R, or is it?
Oh, I'm trying to tell jokes at the same time, and that's terrible. No. It's y. It's x over y.
Okay.
Okay, my bad.